Okay, let's take a look at how we can solve this indicial equation. So we have 5x equals 40x raised to the power minus 1 over 2. And take note, the power minus 1 over 2 is strictly for the x and not for the 40. So we could just start by, okay, let's do it this way. Write out your 5x equals 40x raised to the power minus 1 over 2. We could divide both sides by 5 first of all. So divide both sides by this 5. Divide here by 5. So 5 cancels 5. Then we'll have x equals, then 5 in 40 will give us 8 equals 8. Then we still have our x raised to the power minus 1 over 2 there waiting for us. So in this case, we are going to reverse this x raised to the power minus 1 over 2 using law of indices. And don't forget that the x raised to the power minus 1 over 2 is in product with the 8. So before I even reverse it, I can write it in product form clearly so that you understand what I'm trying to say. So we'll say x equals to, I can now say 8 times the x raised to the power minus 1 over 2. So it's now very clear. So we will now focus our attention on this guy here, reversing it using law of indices. So we now have x equals 8 times, using law of indices, the x raised to the power minus 1 over 2 becomes 1 over x raised to the power 1 over 2. Then multiplying the 8 by this 1 over x raised to the power 1 over 2. So I'll get x equals 8 times, the 8 times 1 gives me 8 over, then the x raised to the power 1 over 2. Then I can put this x here over 1, then I can now cross multiply. So I will then have this x times this x raised to the power 1 over 2, using law of indices. Let me write down out first of all. X times x raised to the power 1 over 2, then equals this 8 times 1 gives me 8. And of course, looking at this side of the equation, we know that this x has a power 1. So following law of indices, I will pick one of the identical bases and then I'm going to add the power, law of indices. So I'm going to do exactly that. So pick one x and then add the power 1 plus 1 over 2. Of course, we know that this x here has a power 1. Then equals 8. Then we are going to have the x raised power, the 1 plus 1 over 2 as on the power of x gives us 3 over 2. So we have x equals 3 over 2 equals 8. Then of course we know what will happen here. The power of this x will leave and become a power for 8. But if the power for x is leaving to become a power for 8, it's going to invert and become 2 over 3. So that's it. So let me move it over to that side. So I'm going to have x will now be free equals 8 raised to the power 2 over 3. The power will invert when it goes over to the other side. So we will now have, following law of indices, we are going to deal with this one now. We are going to say x equals root, fix your 8, and put the denominator, which is 3, over to this side. So I'm putting the 3 here, all into a power. What's the power? The power 2. I'm fixing 2 as the power, so 2 stays here. So we will now have x equals the cube root of 8. That's it, because we have 3 here. That means we're going to look for the cube root of 8, or we'll look for a number you multiply in 3 places to get 8, and it's definitely 2. So that's 2 raised to power this power 2 here waiting for us. So we'll then have raised to power 2. We now have x equals to 2 raised to power 2 is 4. So we'll say x equals 4. So it's very simple, very easy. So that's what you get as your answer.